Hello and welcome to CXO Talk. We are pleased to have Mr. Sushil Tyagi, Executive Director, BusinessNEXT, joining us in this episode on CXO TV. Hello and a warm welcome, Sushil.
Thank you, Kalpana. Pleasure to meet up with you.
And yeah. So, Sushil, in your opinion, what are the most pressing challenges and opportunities that the banking and financial services industry faces today? And especially, in light of recent global disruptions.
Yeah. So, Kalpana, today the technology, the way the technology has evolved in the last few years, and especially post-pandemic, the biggest driver today is that what is the digital transformation every bank wants to do, and there are kind of vision and kind of opportunities for everybody to create those mandates on the ground. And what we see is that the banks, though they are adopting digital transformation, but the challenges which they happen to even, basically mitigate would be around the personalization, around the autonomous, right? How much can you do without a human interaction, and how seamless you can create these interaction. And the fourth challenge, which is that while you are doing it, how much data privacy and how much data security governance you need to organize around it. Otherwise, this could actually become a more problem than a solution on what we want to achieve as a digital transformation within the banks.
Yeah. So, in conclusion, we can say by embracing technology, the BFSI can manage regulatory compliance and kind of navigating through the crises and catering to the changing customer expectations. Okay. So, if you can tell us about BusinessNEXT, the brand's legacy and how it has grown over the years, how has BusinessNEXT evolved to meet the changing demands of the technology landscape and maintain its position as a leading provider of technology solutions in the financial services industry?
Right. So, Kalpana, in fact, as BusinessNEXT, we have always been a challenger company, right? And we have always believed that we would create something which is innovative, which is something path-breaking in the industry. And that's how we started as an organization. That vision we still continue to, execute to best our abilities as such. So in terms of what we have been doing is that if you go back a few years back, we were born as a CRM company, right? We started as a product which is CRM Next, and largely what we did around that was we wanted to solve the problem for the banking and finance industry. So CRM was never new at that point of time either. There were enough CRM, but what most of the CRM was solving was for the mid-market or an SME market. An enterprise like banks, which are much more complex, which are much more, in size, are much bigger. We never saw most of the time that there was a value which was being delivered by many of the products which were existent at that point of time. So what we took as a challenge at that point of time was also how we can differentiate in our offering to create those kind of value propositions for the banking industry, right? And we largely created a very good success story out of it. Today in India, we almost hold 80% of market share for the CRM in the banks, right? Most of the big names use us. And the same vision, we continue to do it. So we have rebranded ourselves as BusinessNEXT in last 1 year or so. And the reason is that we have also evolved as an organization in terms of our offerings. So today we are not limited to only a CRM product. We have moved on and today we do mandates for a digital transformation, whereby a CRM is one of the components. So today we execute programs like, for example, the customer onboarding, the eKYCs, the credit onboarding, entire life cycle of a sales for banks in terms of any products, be it a credit card, be it a loan product, or be it even a corporate product for that matter, largely on the SME side of it for the corporate. All of this has been enabled, and these are the kind of capabilities we brought, which is basically product on Customer Next. We have also done, products like Data Next, which largely is around complementing the large data warehouse mandates of the banks, whereby we could leverage the composition of both data and AI together And those are the mandates, and hence we have rebranded, and not to be seen only as a CRM product company, but a much larger, wider capabilities we bring to the table on that aspect, and hence a Business Next, right?
Yeah. So, although the company has rebranded itself from CRM Next to Business Next, so is it also, we are selling solutions of Business Next apart from BFSI to other sectors also, or it's just the BFSI which you're targeting these customers?
So first of all, our focus is, BFSI, and will remain to that. However, on a experimental level, we do basically cover few of the other industries sometimes, right? But if you ask me as a vision, as a focus for the next 2 years, we would continue to do for a banking and finance only. But on a lab level, on a research level, we may figure out if there is any use case for any other vertical, and if it gives us enough confidence and enough value proposition and a business plan around it, we can look at it in the future. But as of now, we stick to the banking and finance domain.
Sure. So, would you like to name some marquee customers, especially when you say that Business Next is not like just a fintech company, but also more like a managed service provider for the other services as well, including the other services for whether it is customers onboarding or eKYC kind of. So, who all are your marquee customers?
So you name, from the top, let me name the State Bank of India is one of our large customers. That relationship is quite old. SDFC Bank, which is now also the fourth largest in the post the merger, right, in the worldwide ranking, is also a customer, and that customer relationship has been with us for more than 13 years now. Apart from that, Axis Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, the Kotak Bank, such the IndusInd Bank, the RBL, all the sizable banks. Apart from that, we also have mid-sized banks, which were basically a small finance bank like Jana Small Finance Bank and Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. Apart from that, we have also got a list of clients in the banking sector. For example, the PNB MetLife, the Bajaj Alliances, the Kotak Life, the SBI Life. So within the insurance sector also, we have a very, very good penetration and clientele as such. And this is that's the reason I must repeat that we hold a major shareholding of most of our digital transformations mandates which happen in the industry. Even today, we hold a major shareholder in comparison to, let's say, our competition on this particular space, which is the banking and finance space.
Well, that's fantastic. So, how many branches we have? Is BusinessNEXT a global company, or what about the global presence?
Yeah, so we are proud to say that we are an MNC which is born out of India, right? So we have, of course, 3 offices within India, which is the Noida, which is an R&D center. And this is also the headquarters. Apart from that, we have a big setup in Mumbai and Pune, which is basically largely catering to the global markets for us. In terms of our setup outside India, we are present in US, we are present in Middle East, in Dubai, we are present in Southeast Asia, in Singapore, in Philippines, and these markets, right? And we largely cover most of the markets globally out of these various offices, whereby we have local setup and local team, which is a front-end team, which is based in these particular countries outside India.
Okay. So, it's now like, switching gears again, coming back to our main topic. So, financial inclusion is a global goal. And so how do you envision the role of innovative fintechs in bridging the gap and bringing essential banking services to underserved populations?
Oh, Kalpa, so that's a very good question. Yeah, in fact, if you would have seen the recent G20 meet, whereby the government itself has been very proudly, and that's a fact, whereby if you see the data, UPI has been one of the biggest success globally and well recognized, right? And that's one of the ways of getting to the unbanked market, right, as such, and getting into the remote areas and to the deepest pocket of the population, right? So how we see is, look, the digital transformation as such and all the digital initiatives are actually helping in basically to reach that market, because it enables any user, which is a bank's user, to do a transaction without even a branch being existent around him, right? And fortunately, India has been a big market for smartphone users, even on the growth on that front. And as the smartphone penetration happens and your products which banks could sell online or get a service online to the end user is basically a convenience at the doorstep. That's how we see it. And these kind of initiatives are going to help in terms of penetrating more and more and getting an unbanked customers or a population to come into a fold of the banking industry. Therefore, the mandates we also play in terms of what we offer within the banking space is going to help to that extent. So if you want to do a customer onboarding, somebody sitting in a very remote location where there's no physical presence as such of a bank, you could do it. And all these initiatives are also in the local languages. So from that aspect, it becomes a very, very hyperscale model at the same time. And you could actually take it to the deepest level of penetration. That's how we see it, right? And I think this will only enable banks to onboard more and more customers or do a cross-sell or also keep their customer service parameters to the highest level by creating a very, without hardly a zero-touch program, what we may call it, whereby there's no human touch, but however, you're still doing a lot of activities, which is online.
Yeah, sure. The cross-border payments, recently there was a news that India now can have free cross-border payments with the Southeast Asian countries like Singapore and all. So what are your views and thoughts? And
yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the breakthrough moments for the country as such, right? First of all, and the government initiatives and the ecosystems they have created around the Fintech as such as a government has been a key for the industry as such across. So when I talk about banks or companies like us or anybody who is into the banking technology space, it is a big step. So my views are similar to what everybody feels. I think it's a big initiative. It's a big success. It creates not only the brand awareness about what we have done in technology within the country, but it also takes the entire initiative outside the country. And the second is also creates a direct model between the two countries when we're talking about cross-border. And it's a much more simplified way of doing business as we move forward in the digital era. So that's what my view would be.
Yeah, sure. So what trends or advancements do you foresee shaping the future of banking and financial services? And how can industry leaders prepare for these changes?
Okay, so the trends we see is look more and more products or initiatives would be driven around AI, right? Now, when I say AI is a very loosely used word otherwise in the industry, but it's a very, very big initiative, and there's a huge scope of what you can do, right, in that space. So imagine a customer of a bank is well understood through an AI by the bank, and you give a very, very personalized kind of a connect, which basically means that you're creating a very high level of satisfaction and maybe a huge improvement on NPS scores through all these kind of programs, right? It also helps you, apart from the service and creating that satisfaction levels, you can also create a very tailor-made offerings for a particular kind of a customer, right, at any point of time. However, so I see that trend will only grow. But since it's in the initial stages, there is also many pitfalls, because question is how much can you go in the garb of AI, how much can you deep dive into a personal data of an individual, right? So that's one, line you have to keep in mind, that how much can you go deeper. So for example, I'll give you an example of another industry whereby, in health industry, if you have taken a lab test and as a person, you get to the lab comes to know, okay, you are let's say borderline case for a diabetes. Now, can you go and tom about his diabetes and start giving him all the recommendations of what he should do and what he should not do? Is it a satisfaction level improvement or it is something else, right? Is a question. Yeah. So, similarly, even in the banking, you have to draw those lines that where do you get to an extent of getting with the data? So how we see is that one is that part of it, but banking also very regulated industry, unlike many of the other industry where you may not have as many regulations, right? So the data to some extent, directly, indirectly, has to be managed within the country. It should not also sometimes cross the borders, right? In certain mandates of the regulation. Now, how do you manage that? Because when you talk about AI could be, AI is driven by data. And if the data is being used and consumed in a manner which crosses the border to a certain extent, then how do you keep that in a regulated, framework is another question, right? And third is that every bank has to understand that what are the data sets which they should use and what are the data sets which they should not use. And in our industry, we call it an asset data, whereby, data which you cannot touch, you should not be using it for any kind of communication or any kind of, interaction with the customers.
So that hygiene has to be maintained.
Hygiene has to be maintained. And that's a very, very thin line, to be honestly speaking, as of today. Not many people understand it. But as we grow and we mature and we understand, I think, and more regulation clarity also comes around that. I think everybody would have a fair idea on that. So that thin line has to be taken care of. Data doesn't mean that everything can be used at any point of time in any way. So there has to be a framework around that. And I think that is a challenge, and that is also an opportunity for everybody.
Yeah, sure. So the second point that you have given, that data hygiene has to be maintained, even it should not be shared cross-border. So what are the solutions? These are the factors we can understand, but then how is this going to get possible?
Yeah. So look, the possibility is that first of all, there has to be a fair understanding that what data sets of a customer you are creating over a period of time, right? And out of that, what are the data sets which you should use and which you should not use, and very clearly demarcated understanding on that. A second is, when you are using that data, especially on the AI front, is it within the framework of, as I said, in the regulated framework of the industry? Then how do you, basically get a solution around it is a question, as you rightly asked. So I'll give you an example. For example, we keep hearing about generative AI as one of the buzzword today in the industry. Yeah. And ChatGPT is leading that as a capability what they brought to the industry. And it is helpful in many an aspect for various use cases. However, it's a global data. It's not, it's sitting somewhere in the outside the country, and a lot of data which is being consumed across the border. Now, though generative AI is the big thing even for the banking industry, but can it be used in the similar manner, the way it is being used, let's say, for your general purpose models? Yeah. So the differentiation, what everybody has to create is that, first of all, it cannot be a general purpose use case. You would have to come very, very specific use case for the banking industry and say, okay, this is how I want to use it. And within the framework, maybe, it may not be a public cloud model, may not be the best solution. So so what we typically, for example, what we propose to our customers is that go for an hyper SaaS models, whereby the data is well protected within the framework of the regulation. There is a least amount of breach possibility. The confidentiality is maintained to that extent, right? And you have control on that data at any point of time. It's not out of your control at all. So those are the kind of solutions which we believe we have been working on as an solution provider. And then we keep doing this R&D at our end to figure out what are the best possible security standards you need to maintain and create both around the solution and also on your deployment. So there are two aspects of it. One is that my solution, but the second is how do you deploy it in the real life?
Right. So what, in your view, are the critical factors that have been crucial for BusinessNEXTs success and the successes of your clients in such a dynamic and competitive market?
So look, again, I'll give you another example. Look, every product in the world, right, is built with a certain purpose. For example, when you build a car, you build it for a purpose. Is it a city car? Is it a off-roading car? Or is it a race car? And accordingly, you architect that product right from the foundation, right? And that's the critical factor for us. So we have built a product for a particular industry, built for a particular problem to be solved. And that is what is our success on the critical factor for our success has been all this long. We believe, the industry like banks and finance, it has 2-3 very big parameters, which they always, even as a bank, they always have in mind. One is they are regulated. Second is they are a very, very highly competitive industry. Third is that the products they offer actually do not differentiate between any one bank to another bank, right? Except a few % of interest here and there, right? Which cannot be the differentiating factor for the banks most of the time, right? So what it creates for them is the banking experience or the customer experience and the customer engagement model, which is what differentiates between them. And the critical success factor is we have understood it well. We have been doing it for almost 2 decades now, right? And we have enough domain to understand that, though we have built a product, but successfully deploying it on the ground, what will it take to deploy it and run it for next 10 years is our model, which we understand has been the reason for us to succeed so many times. So if you look at it, our relationships most of the time are very long. It's not that it's a 1 year, 2 year relationship. Once we build a relationship, it carries on for many years. And that cannot be you cannot do it unless you have delivered a lot of value back to the relationship and you've taken care of the critical elements of making it happen on the ground, right? So we may not be the best marketing people, but we really know our business and we really understand what will it take to execute large programs like this.
Yeah, sure. So what are your top focus areas and expansion plans over the next 2 to 4 years?
So we'll continue to, work on, North America is one of our critical expansion plan going forward, and we'll continue to invest and move forward in that market. Apart from that, the Southeast Asia market and Middle East African markets have been on top of our priority. We are investing and penetrating on a, quarter to quarter basis in these markets. India is our home, and India is big even today for us, and India has huge potential even today and going forward, and this remains our home market anyhow. So these are the markets which we'll keep on focusing. The only difference is that what will you do next 3 years is that since we only work with banking and finance companies, we just want to create our market share bigger and bigger in these markets. Though we are present even today, but how do we create more market share for ourselves is the penetration strategy for us.
Sure. So thank you so much, Sushil, for such an insightful session, and we appreciate your time and wish you and the entire BusinessNEXT team good luck.
Thank you, Kalpana. Thank you for your time too. Pleasure interacting with you.
Same here.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.